Runsmith Enterprises presents episode 16 of Topics in Endurance Sports. I'm your host, Tim. Today is Friday, April 27th, 2018. You can find out a little more information about me at my website at runsmith.net. Email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Also, my coaching services. Yes, I'm a coach, and yes, I am taking more clients. If you want to run a half marathon, 10K, 5K, if you want to run on trails, if you want to try your first ultra, go ahead and check that out at runsmith.net. You can also donate to this podcast, which does cost me money every single month, and it takes some time to put together. You can donate at patreon.com/runsmith. Patreon.com/runsmith. This episode is brought to you by Health IQ, which is a life insurance company that helps health-conscious people like you get lower rates on their life insurance. I'll have a little more about this later, but remember you can go to healthiq.com/endurance to find out if you qualify for lower rates. healthiq.com/endurance. Also brought to you unofficially by Cycling to End Lupus. This is something put together by a guy, and he did not ask me to sponsor him. However, I'm just bringing it up for all of you. So it's called Cycling to End Lupus. Cycling to End Lupus is an awareness project designed by Keith and Aubrey Rahn, R-A-H-N, to raise funds for lupus research in partnership with the Make Your Mark program by the Lupus Foundation of America. So this is something near and dear to my heart. Lupus, my wife has lupus, and I have. I held a race for a few years back in Iowa before I moved here, and all the proceeds we did also went to the Lupus Foundation of America or related. I gave some to a researcher at the University of Iowa who was researching lupus. So this is near and dear to my heart. So these people are Keith is going to do something, and he's supported by Aubrey to raise funds for lupus research as well. It's a very mysterious type of disease, highly misunderstood, often misdiagnosed. It's not a simple disease like cancer might be, where you can say yes, you have cancer or you don't have cancer. And it's not a sexy disease like cancer is, or diabetes, or some of these diseases everyone's pouring money into all of the time. And when I say sexy, obviously what I mean is a disease that everyone is in tune to. Lupus is kind of off the radar, but a lot of people suffer from it. So it really needs more awareness and more funds for research. Anyway, what Keith is doing, this is what he writes: our first fundraiser in this effort is quite awesome and to self-admittedly crazy. Having the Trans Am bike race on his radar for a couple of years now, Keith will be taking part in this 4,300-mile bike race across America on June 2nd, 2018. Along with racing the solo and self-supported race, we are going to raise funds for lupus research while Keith time trials across 10 states. So Keith is going to do this bike ride across America on June 2nd, and he wants to raise funds for it. He does have a website called cyclingtoendlupus.com, all one big word, cyclingtoendlupus.com. And I'll put a link to that, and I'll talk about more about this in future episodes. So again, Keith did not ask me to say anything about this, but I do want people to be aware of this. All right, what are today's topics? Well, we have 2 races I have done. Yes, I'm behind again in my podcasting, like I often am. So this is 2 races I did. One's called the Buzzard Day 50K, and the other was the Knoxville Marathon. So before we get into that, a little bit from last time, a couple of things. I mentioned a guy named Tyler Beckett who lost his life to suicide in the last episode, and I said that there's a race devoted to him called I forget what it's called, I'm sorry, but it's in the notes. It's in the last podcast, and in it somewhere it said he was from Marietta, so I just automatically said Marietta, Georgia? Isn't that a place in Georgia? Well, it's not. It's Marietta, Ohio, and I actually live in Ohio, but I've never heard of Marietta. So There's a race for him, and the race was actually already held. It was on March 31st, but I'm assuming they have it every year. So I met Marietta, Ohio, not Marietta, Georgia. Also, if you listened to the last episode, you had a chance to win a copy of the book that I reviewed. The book was written by Dave Essinger of Ohio, and the book is called Running Out, a great book. You should all go get it. It's complete fiction, but it's very cool because it has some very interesting chemistry in it that's not fictional, and it's just a very fun read, fascinating read. Anyway, I gave out a copy of that book for free, and it was won by Brad Bowles. So congratulations, Brad Bowles, on winning the book. All right, that's it. That's it for all the intro stuff. Let's get into today's topics. 2 races, the Buzzard Day 50K. And this is a race I ran on March 17th. So that is a month and 11 days ago or something like that. So that's how far behind I am again. This was in northeastern Ohio at the Hinckley Reservation in Hinckley, Ohio. Basically, it's near Cleveland, Ohio, which is way up in the northeast corner. I did the 50K. There's also a 100K and a 25K. So let's go over my weekend here. So first, I went up on Friday. The race was on Saturday. I went up on Friday. It's about a 4-hour drive. I'm near Cincinnati. So basically, I'm going northeast the whole way through the complete state of Ohio, pretty much, right through Columbus up to Cleveland. Now, I hit pickup, which was at the start-finish itself, which is always nice because then you know where the start-finish is. And there's a little building there. I went inside and met the race director, Roy. I'm not sure how you say his last name. Heger. Heger? I guess it'd be Heger. I met him and picked up a black short-sleeve shirt. Let's see. It's black short-sleeve tech shirt, and it's got a big old ugly buzzard on it, which is pretty cool. And it says Buzzard Day Trail Race right on the shirt. So I got my black short sleeve tech shirt. I don't think this race cost a whole lot. You didn't get a whole bunch other than the shirt and a medal when you were done. But I don't remember the cost, but I think it was relatively cheap. So Roy goes by the moniker, the old Buzzard. That's what they call him. I think he even had a Buzzard hat sometimes, wandering around with a nice old Buzzard hat. Maybe. I think so. By the way, the name of this race comes from the fact that turkey vultures, and I guess buzzard and turkey vulture means the same thing, they return to this area every spring around this time, and they even have watch parties. So evidently, as soon as the first buzzard is sighted, people start yelling, "Hey, the buzzards are out," and people come from afar to see these buzzards coming into this area. And they've been doing this for evidently 57 years, for a long time. So I guess they were using phone trees a long time ago. I don't know. And people come and they dress up like buzzards, and it's kind of crazy. There's a little video on the race website. Watch the little video. It's only like a minute and a half long. It's pretty funny. So they come all over to see the buzzards coming in. Why? I don't know. I guess that's interesting to do. I will say that during the race, I did not notice any buzzards. But then again, it's not like I was looking up in the air. But I didn't see any. All right, so that's what I did Friday. I just went to packet pickup. Pretty simple procedure like any old packet pickup. Asked a few questions about the race and the course and so forth and so on. However, as I often do, if I'm going someplace, I will try to find something else to do in that same place. I do this fairly often unless it's just kind of a short in and out race, which this would have been, but I did find something else to do. On Friday night, I went to a concert. And the person I went to see was Michael Schenker, who a lot of you will not know. So he's got a band called the Michael Schenker Group. If you're my age and you're kind of an old classic rocker guy, you will know Michael Schenker because you know his band in the 70s was UFO. And even if you think you don't know that name, you might know some of these songs. So I went to the concert. It was in Cleveland itself. I forget where in Cleveland. I just can't think of the name of the theater it was in. My brother-in-law happened to go there. He lives in this area, near me as well, but he just happened to go up as well. So we hung out together and watched the concert, which was great. And just to give you a little taste of what this sounds like, you people who don't like classic rock and roll will hate this, but I'm going to play a few little clips of some old UFO songs. This is absolute classic rock and roll. People like me are going to love this. So I'm just going to play a few seconds. Here's one of their hits. All right, there you go. That's enough for you. A little Michael Schenker. Michael Schenker is a guitar god, so he's the one playing guitar, all the lead guitar in all those songs. And after he left UFO, after they broke up, he's just formed this Michael Schenker group, and has been touring ever since. And it was fantastic. He is really, truly a guitar god, and I really enjoyed the show. It was rather unique because what he did was there were 4 different singers. So these are all his past singers, or a bunch of his past singers, and they just rotated through. So like the first guy did like 3 songs, and the next guy 3 songs, 3 and 3. Then toward the end, when they're doing all those big, of course he saved all those hits for the end, they all came out and just like alternated lyrics. It was really kind of neat. It was made it kind of theatrical to do that. And Michael Schenker was having a great time. He doesn't sing. He just sits there and cranks in the guitar, and all the songs are great. They all had the same type of formula, a little intro, musical intro guitar, chorus, refrains, and with bridges and a guitar solo in every single song, and they're all great. So I really, really enjoyed it. It's a great show. Now the only drawback to that is I didn't get back to my hotel till I think 12:30 or so, something like that. And I got up at 5. So I think I got about 4 hours of sleep. So not a whole lot of sleep. I think I did go up early enough that I took a nap from like 4 to 5 in the hotel. So I got a little bit of a nap there. But it did mean not getting a ton of sleep. 3.5, 4 hours of sleep is about all I got. But it was worth it. It was fun. So back to the race. The Buzzard Day race, by the way, does raise money for a charity called Run to Share, which assists people in need via food donations, at least as far as I can tell. It might do some other things as well. And the only website I saw was their Facebook page, which is facebook.com/run2share, RUNTOSHARE. And that's where the money goes. So it's for a good cause. That's what a nice thing. So always good to do races for a good cause. So the course itself is a 25K loop, about 15.6 miles with a lake in the loop. At one point you're running along it, and there's a lollipop hanging off of the loop. So you're running, I think you go clockwise, and towards the beginning you take a left and you do a lollipop, and then you come back, and then you get back on the course and finish it. The 100K people started at 6 a.m. The 50K people, started at 8 a.m. and the 25K people started at 10. So 2 hours between each start. At the start, like I said, there is a small building you can go into, which is nice if it's cold. And I think it was chilly. It's like low 40s or so. I can't remember. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't like windy or anything, but it was cold. And there was a bathroom connected to the building, although I don't think the bathroom was really heated, but it was warm enough. So that was good. There is an aid station about every 5 miles. So, it's like a 15-mile loop. So about every 5 and 10, there was an aid station. And then back at the start finish, aid stations were really typical. They had stuff to drink. I forget which sport drink they had, but they had a sport drink and water and sandwiches and M&Ms and all that type of stuff. Very interesting mixture to the course itself. If I had to guess, and I'm not really good at these numbers, but I'll give it a try, I would say about half of the course was kind of like wide horse trail, I guess maybe, like double wide track, dirt and gravel, kind of a mixture, maybe some grass, so dirt, gravel, and grass, all kind of mixed up. And some of it was very rocky, and a lot of it was not very rocky. So, some of it, when I say very rocky, I mean like baseball-sized rocks. So at times you're kind of dealing with that, and other times it's just nice, smooth dirt. Other times it was grass. There's about 5 miles of single track maybe on it, and a couple of miles of roads. So you hit one road section, which seemed to me it was over a mile or so, and then a few other little road sections. So a little bit of road mixed in. So you have a bit of everything in this race. Part of the race, you're running right along Hinkley Lake, which is nice. It's to your right. You're running along that for a while. Before the second aid station, if I have this right, it's before the second aid station, you go through this, what's called the ledges. It's really neat. And these gigantic boulders, house-sized boulders, you're kind of picking your way through. And around here, you pretty much have to walk. I could not run this. Your steps you're going over big rocks at this point. And you're even using your hands a little bit to get around and that type of thing. And then you kind of go through these rocks and you get up through, you actually have to take this left at one point. This is a spot I actually missed the first loop. You have to take a left at one point and go right through two house-sized boulders. And you kind of go straight up this thing. And then you get onto what's called really the ledges, I guess. And then you're running along, and to your left is a gigantic cliff, like 50, 60 feet or something. So if you fall off, not good. And you're running kind of on the rock, and it's very sketchy here. Again, not easy to run. I was walking most of it. And this whole rocky section was only a mile or a mile and a half or something. But it was a very slow part. But it's also the coolest part. You have really cool views. And, the big rocks like that are always really neat to see. So this part was kind of highly technical, but it was worth it. There were parts of the course that had snow on them, probably parts that just had not seen, because it hadn't snowed for a while, but I think these are just parts that hadn't seen sun yet very much. But it was kind of hard-packed, thin snow. It wasn't a big deal. But there was snow on parts of it. There were some muddy sections, especially like on the second loop. Things started getting muddier as the day warmed. So kind of mushy, a little bit mushy through some sections. There were a few creeks to go through, but they were pretty low. I think if you really tried hard, you probably could have picked your way over them over rocks. And I think maybe once I kind of did. And then the rest of the times I'm like, I just ran right through them and just let my feet get all completely soaked. I didn't really care that much. So, but the creeks were pretty low to go through. So it wasn't a big deal, go through a few creeks. And it sounds to me like I was actually kind of lucky, or we were lucky, in that sometimes the conditions could be a lot worse. I think they can be way more muddy, way more snowy, icy, and all this stuff. And it was pretty decent this year. I'll talk to someone later who will talk a little bit more about that. But anyway, I very much liked the course. It was hilly. I'll talk about kind of the total amount of climb, but it was hilly enough that you were going up and down, and I would not call it flat. Was it mountainous hilly? No, of course, nothing like that. But it wasn't flat. You were going up and down fairly often. Yes, you had times when you were just running completely flat for a while. But there were some pretty good climbs and ups and downs, enough to make you work. A really beautiful training race if you're doing like the 25 or 50K. I mean, fantastic training race because it's just got a bit of everything. It just made you work. Personally, my race went okay, I would say. That's still early in my running season, so it was like my first real race of the season as far as kind of first real test of the season. I tend to not run a lot in the summer and early fall, and then I kind of pick it up through the fall and am just kind of getting into race shape around this time. So it went okay, but I could feel I wasn't quite there yet. My first loop took about 3 hours, 17 minutes. And on the second loop, it was St. Patrick's Day. So I have this big green, I should be wearing it now and I forgot, this big green top hat with little shamrocks on them. And I wore that the whole second loop, which no one seemed to notice, by the way. So I ran that for loop 2, and I did do some more walking in loop 2. I was starting to just kind of bonking, I guess. My legs were just kind of running out of energy. So I was doing some more walking. Plus, I took my phone for the second loop, purposely to take pictures because I didn't do that in the first loop. And especially the ledges and all that area, I was stopping and just taking a bunch of pictures. So I lost a number of minutes doing that, which, like, who cares? It was nice to have some pictures, which I will put on the website, by the way, in the show notes. So check those out. My total time was 7 hours, 11 minutes, 40 seconds. So my first loop took about 3:17 and my second around 3:55. So I did slow down quite a bit. I ended up in 31st place out of 51 finishers. So not even in the top half, which is okay. The 2 people dropped. I was 27th of 39 males, so getting towards the back end of the males. Like I said, overall, this was pretty tough for me. Maybe if I went back right now, 6 weeks later, it might feel easier. But I was fighting pretty much in the second loop there just to keep going. My legs just were feeling quite heavy. So my watch, which I had bought the day before, I got a Suunto Ambit 3 Peak. I got it off eBay, so I got it cheap. I bought it the day before, barely knew how to use it. Or I should say it arrived on Thursday, I guess. The race was on Saturday. So it actually came in the mail on Thursday. Anyway, I got 3,450 feet up and 3,450 feet down, which is moderately hilly. It's not flat. But it's not like, mountains again, but it's enough to, again, a great workout, enough to make sure you're paying attention and going up and down for sure. There were no course records set, so that might tell you that the conditions weren't the best because there were no course records in any distance. The shoes I wore were my Hoka Speed Goats. They worked well. That's kind of I'm settling in at the moment for those being my go-to shoes for more technical trail days. They worked well, and when we finished, we got a buckle. Got a nice buckle. It's a red circle thing. It's got a little Buzzard on it. It says Buzzard Trail Race 2018. So yes, I got a buckle. Edit. I meant to say medal, not buckle. Let's see let's name some of the winners and such. The female winner of the 50K was Barb Mackey of Dexter, Michigan in 6:24:46. For the men, it was Travis Zipfel, Zipfel, of Columbus, Ohio in 4:01:45. That's pretty fast. He beat me by 3 hours and 10 minutes. 4:01:45. That's only 9 minutes off the course record, which was set by Corey Woltering, which some of you may know. He's a very, very good runner out of Illinois. Speaking of Corey, in the 25K, Corey was there, but he decided just to do the 25K this year, and he won in 1:55:12. Compare that to my 3 hours and 17 minutes. He did it in 1:55:12. He was 9 minutes off the course record himself. And for the women in the 25K, Pam McGowan of Akron, Ohio in 2:40:29. So those are the winners of the 25K. Corey, like I said, is an elite runner. He just came in second in the American River 50 in California. He's training for Western States. I know he's done a 50-mile race in something like 5 hours and 30 minutes, which is blazing fast. I think it was the fastest 50-mile race that year in America, a couple years ago. So anyway, there were 97 people who finished the 25K, by the way. In the 100K, there were only 10 finishers and 6 DNFs. So very impressive that people even took on the 100K because there weren't a whole lot. The winner was Beth Gilday of Flat Rock, Michigan in 16:53 flat, and the cutoff was 17 hours. So she made it by 7 minutes. By the way, in second place was Kimberly Durst of Warren, Ohio. She was only 5 minutes behind, 16:58 for her. And I will talk to Kimberly in a moment. So 5-minute difference between the first and second place women, both of them just before the cutoff, which is kind of neat. In the 100K, in the men, it was Jeffrey Adams of Buffalo, New York. Came all the way from Buffalo in 10:21:43. That's pretty fast, too, I would say. That's just over 10 hours to do that 100K. Pretty good for that day. So there's all the finishers. I do want to give a little shout out to a woman who lives near me. I live, like I said, near Cincinnati. She's close to me. Her name is Helen Guerin. And I wanted to interview. I talked to her after the race, and sometimes I'm just too tired to get my microphone and pull it out and interview people. Plus, I get very socially anxious. And that's what was happening. I was just too nervous or whatever to do it. I should have interviewed her, and I'm kicking myself for not interviewing her about it. But anyway, she finished the race ahead of me in the 50K, and she was using the race to train for the Georgia Death Race, which was kind of interesting. So I would have liked to get her point of view on the race. She did tell me that it was the first time she had run the Buzzard, and she thought the course was fine, and she actually wished there were more hills. Not me, I was happy with the number of hills, but she wanted more hills because she was using it to prepare for the Georgia Death Race, which is just a couple of weeks later. She said she wore Ultra Lone Peak 3.0 shoes, and she just ate at the aid stations. That's all she did. I actually ran with her for a little while just before I slowed down to take some pictures, but she was just jogging, making it look really easy, and I was kind of fighting, so she was definitely better than me. By the way, she did finish the Georgia Death Race her 4th time finishing it, folks. Really, really, really impressive. Again, I hope to run into her in the future and get a little interview with her because she's a really impressive runner in our area. Anyway, I said I'd have a little interview, so I'm going to talk to Kimberly Durst, who came in 2nd place in the 100K. You can listen to that right now. Okay, the first question is, have you done the Buzzard Day before?
Yes, I have. I've done every year except last year. Last year I had a cut on my leg that got infected with MRSA, so I had to withdraw before the race started.
Oh, wow.
I've done another race.
So had you always done the 100K, or had you done some of the shorter ones?
No, actually, the first year that I ran it, there was no 100K.
Oh, okay.
You had a 50K and a 25K, so I ran the 50K that first year that I did it, which was 2013.
And since then, you've been doing the 100K?
No, I've alternated. I've done the 100K twice, and I've done the 50K 2 times as well, I think, yeah.
Okay.
And there was one year I had a DNF. I had to go to work. I worked midnight shift, and I wasn't going to be done in time for my shift to start, so I had to drop at 75K.
Are you a nurse or something related to that?
I am, yeah.
And you work midnight shifts?
Yes, correct.
Like, how does that work? Like, is it like a 12-hour shift?
Yeah, I work 12-hour shifts.
A certain, like 4 days a week?
It alternates 3 or 4 depending on the week. I work 3 one week, 4 the next week.
I never understand how people can do that because your sleep has to be so messed up.
I mean, I always tell people you get used to it, but you don't. It's never easy, but you get to a point where there's an expectation and you're able to handle it and deal with it a little bit better. And yeah, I mean, it works out well with racing, having 3-day weekends. You know, I can get off work, drive out to wherever I'm going or fly out, whatever I'm doing, and then, you know, do the race and come back.
That's a good point. Was the course different the first year or 2 or 3? Or is this the same course each time? I think it's different, isn't it?
I'm going to be honest. I mean, people say, oh, I know the course. And to me, it's been slightly altered every year I've done it. I don't think it's been the same any 2 years.
Okay.
Some of the areas of the course don't handle water as well. And there's like multiple creeks. I mean, you've been out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's multiple creeks, and sometimes the creeks will swell and kind of flood the course, and he'll have to reroute it a little bit. So it's kind of, every year I've done it, it's been a little bit different.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so just in general, forgetting about the conditions this year, how would you describe this course if you described it to someone? As far as hilliness and technicality and rocks and roots and gravel and grass and so forth.
You've literally got a little bit of everything. There's stretches that are on the road. You've got some kind of wide, easier trail path. Then there's some more technical areas. I like the ledges. It's probably my favorite part of it. Except at night it was a little sketchy. But yeah, I mean, you've got everything. You can get your feet wet. There's creeks that are, you know, if you're able to use the rocks, you can get over it that way. But yeah, it's varied. I'd say difficulty. I wouldn't say it's overly difficult. Maybe 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How about the conditions this year? My reading on it was that the conditions were actually pretty good this year. The course conditions.
Yeah. The conditions are generally. It's a Northeast Ohio and it's March. I mean, you really don't know what you're going to get any given year. I have run that course or a variation of that course in much worse conditions than this year. This year, kind of in the middle. I've had probably the best year was the first year I did it. It was wonderful. It was very fast and it everything was still kind of frozen, so you didn't have to worry about the mud. And then I've had really awful years. So this year, it was pretty good. It wasn't bad.
Okay. All right, so let's jump into your race. You had to do 4 loops. So give me like a 5-minute little synopsis or 10-minute or whatever of how your race went. You can go loop by loop or any way you like. How did it go?
The first loop, I was running with 4 other guys. And we were going reasonably fast. I think we were in you had a lead pack of like 3 guys, and then you had us, and then there was a bunch of people behind us. And it was still dark. We took a wrong turn.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we ended up repeating a little inner loop.
Oh, okay.
Within the big loop, there's a smaller inner loop.
Okay.
And we ended up repeating that, so we did an extra maybe 2 miles there. Sadly, that wasn't the last time that I went off course, so I ended up going a little too far past one of the aid stations, had to turn around and go back. My first loop was so bad that I came into the start and finish. I ripped my bib off. I threw it on the table. I said, I'm done.
Oh, my.
I did. I ripped it off. I handed it to Richard Schlenk. I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. It had taken me like 4 hours to do the first 25K. And I just remember doing I'm always doing math in my head while I'm running. And I'm calculating, the rate of slowdown when the course starts to thaw and it gets muddy,
right.
Then when it gets dark, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to get done before 11, which is when the park closes.
Right.
It's a 17-hour limit, and I'm thinking, I can't do this. It's not going to happen. And Richard said, well, at least do 50K. He says, just put the bib back on, go out. He's like, just do one more loop, then you can make a decision. I said, fine, I will go out and I will walk. I'm going to walk the next 50K or the next 25K, and I'm done after that.
Are you saying you're going to walk just not so much because you're worn out, but because you're just bummed out? Is that why you said that?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in retrospect, I look at it and it seems kind of silly, but at that point, it was just so demoralizing. I was the last person to come in from the 25K. I had gone from being, in this one of the lead runners in the 100K to being dead last. I'm so far behind everybody, and I'm thinking, I just can't do it. I'm not going to finish it in time. I'm wasting my time being out here. I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that I physically couldn't. I lost the desire to continue. I was so irritated with myself.
Right.
And I mean, I started out the next loop walking. I said, I'm just going to hike it and I'm going to finish. And I reached a point where I'm like, why am I walking? It's just run. And the second loop ended up going really well. I think I came in at the 50K. It was like 7:22, 7:23, maybe something like that. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I can do this then. I told myself if I got it under 8 hours, I would continue on and finish the race. And I was well under 8. So third loop went even better than the second one. I ran most of it. I ended up catching up with Ron Ross, who is a very well-known local ultra runner. I think he's done the Mohican 100 like 21 times or something like that.
Wow.
And I know Ron. I've run with him a lot. And so I ended up running with Ron for a while. And, we ended up doing most of the fourth loop together, too, especially during the ledges. Ledges are really sketchy at night.
Yeah.
And, I told myself, no matter what, I'm going to get this under 17 hours. And I ended up finishing in 16:58 and some change.
I saw that.
So I just skated it right under the 17. Yeah, it was, not my best race in the world, but it ended up going a lot better than I thought after that first loop.
So do you know what the fastest you've run the 100K there is, roughly?
On that course?
Yeah.
That was it.
Oh, okay.
I've done it. The other time I did it, it took me 17:22.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was actually past the park closing the first time that I did it.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the ledges. I can imagine running at night because it really is. Not only is it kind of a straight drop off, but it's not even a straight ledge. You can be running forward and then hit a spot where there's nothing there. And remember that one spot where you had to do about a 2-foot jump? It was like there was like a hole that went 50 feet down, and actually you could just go to the right of it and go around it. But I imagine at night you could have just stepped into that hole and died.
You really could have. It was a very steep drop. You drop from there. I don't know how far you're going to go, 50, 60 feet, maybe more. But yeah, I made Ron go first over that. Yeah, that was pretty scary at night. The visibility wasn't great. And then some of the streamers and the flags, wasn't the race's fault, but people had ripped some of them off the trees, and some of them had stepped on, and so it wasn't easy to see where you were going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I noticed, the other woman you got second. The other woman was only 5 minutes ahead of you. Were you actually like racing her, or did you just come in having no idea she was only 5 minutes ahead of you?
I hate saying I'm competitive. It irritates people, but that wasn't my intention at first. I don't usually go into races just trying to, I'm going to beat everybody.
Right.
But I did hit a point after I finished the first 50K, and I said, okay, I'm committed to doing this 100K, where I decided I'm going to pick off as many people as I can.
Right.
And I started to realize as I was going, I started passing people. I passed a couple of the women. And at one point I realized, like, I'm in third, and then I was in second. And I wondered how far ahead of me she was. Uh-huh. And I didn't think it was feasible to catch her, but it did cross my mind. I did think, wouldn't that just beat all? I'd get lost and just wreck my whole race and then manage to catch everybody, but it didn't happen.
So in the last loop, did you have any idea really where she was, or just that you were in second? So you didn't know it was just 5 minutes or anything like that? No,
I didn't know how close we were. I did see her. There's a couple points where you see people that are going out or going back.
Oh yeah.
And it seemed at that point that she was still within where I could have caught her if I'd really picked up the pace, but she also seemed like maybe she was far enough that it was kind of like possible but not likely.
Right.
So, well, but I did wonder if I'd catch her.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool that, a race that took the two top people almost 17 hours, and you ended up only 5 minutes apart. So that's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, thank you very much for that overview. Very interesting. A couple of logistical questions. What shoes did you wear during the race?
I wore the Innovate X Talon 200, which are my favorite trail shoes. I've worn that exact pair to the point that they now have holes in the sides of them. Uh-oh. But I've been wearing that particular style of shoe on most trail courses for probably about 3 or 4 years now.
Nice. What about socks? What do you like for socks?
In Gingy.
Oh, me too.
I do toe socks. Exclusively toe socks if it's over 50K.
Yeah, I've moved to those as well, but I'm not finding a whole bunch of people wearing them, but I like them as well.
Yeah.
Okay, how did you carry your liquids? Bottles or hydration vest, or did you not carry any?
For that particular race, I did a vest with 2 bottles.
Okay.
Nathan. I did like the little Nathan, I think it's called the fire catcher.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that with 2 bottles, but you probably could have gotten away with 1 bottle or even just using aid stations. It was cool enough.
Yeah. What about your food? What did you do for eating?
Oh, I get made fun of. I basically don't eat. I have the worst fueling strategy of anybody I've ever met. I mean, if it's up to 50 miles, there are times I don't eat at all.
Oh, wow.
Or very little. At Buzzard this year, I think I ate at most of the aid stations, maybe a bite or 2 of like peanut butter and jelly, but I don't like eating when I run long distances.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I know, I stalked your ultra sign up, and you've done some really long races, which that's kind of my next questions. What other races have you done that have you done Vol State? Is that right?
I've finished Vol State twice.
That's amazing. So are you signed up again?
Yes, I'm doing my 3rd one this year.
That's crazy. Well, you have to eat in that race, I guess.
Yeah.
So there do you just wait till you get a regular meal at the end of the day type of thing?
At Vol State?
Yeah.
Last year I lost 6 pounds during the race, so you can imagine it wasn't the best fueling there either. That one, you're running town to town. So you kind of want to time things where you get to stores or gas stations or whatever when they're open. There are times that I will pick things up at the gas station and pop it in the back of my pack to eat later on the road, if I anticipate, coming through a particular area where there's nothing for, 15, 20 miles, because that does happen. You just kind of eat when you can. You want to eat when you get to a town. You kind of have to.
In the shorter races, when you say you don't eat much, is that because you just don't feel hungry, or is it that it's going to annoy you somehow? Your gut will be a problem or something like that?
It's a combination of the two. I've had races where I got so sick I was projectile vomiting for, off and on for half an hour, and I tend to not get hungry for 3, 4, 5 hours. So, I mean, if it's up to 50K, there are times I don't get hungry and I don't need to eat. Again, I'm not promoting this to anybody. It's a bad idea. It's a horrible idea. And I get told all the time, oh, you'd do so much better if you had a smart fueling strategy. And I don't know. Maybe one day I'll figure it out. But yeah.
I'm not so convinced that at least in a 50K that what you're doing is a huge problem. We tend to make such a big deal about eating that maybe we overdo it a little bit. So, yeah, obviously I think if you're going 10 hours, you're going to need some food. But maybe what you're doing is not as bad as it sounds at first. Okay, last question. What races do you have coming up? You have Vol State, you said. That's in July, right?
Yeah, Vol State's the second week of July. I also I'm doing a race that's not really a race. I guess I'm not going to divulge into too many details. It's in Florida, like the first weekend of June.
Uh-huh.
So it's 100K. I'm not going to, again, give too many details on that because it's kind of secretive sort of thing. Like one of those invite-only type runs. We'll call it a run and not a race. And then I'm doing the summer edition of the Beast of Burden. I did the winter in February. I'm doing the summer edition in August.
What is it? I've heard of that, and I can't think of what it is.
It's in New York. It's just a flat, fast towpath 100, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing that, and then I'm doing the Barkley Fall Classic again in September.
So you've done that.
And finally,
I'm sorry to interrupt. You've done that before, right?
Yes, I've finished the 50K at that race the first 2 years that they had it.
Oh, very good. Because I know some people who haven't managed to get through the 50K, so that's well done. What else besides those?
Tunnel Hill 100, I've got that. Yeah. And I've done the 100 there once before.
Yeah, I will see you at the Tunnel Hill 100. I'll be there too.
Oh, you're doing that one too?
Yes. Oh, actually,
I forgot. Place to run a PR.
Yeah. I guess I did, even though I did not have a good. I did it last year, and I did not have a good day, but because it's so slow, I still got a PR by a little bit. But anyway, I'm doing it again this year. I guess I kind of back up a little bit. Oh, do you have any races that you really, anything at all that you really liked, or that you can think of like this was a cool race, or something you'd suggest people do? Anything come to mind? Or it can be any little race. It can be Buzzard Day.
Anything I suggest that people do. Well, on the local level, run with scissors in October.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's another one of Roy Heater's races, Run to Share.
Oh, okay.
Race director of Buzzard. I've done that one a number of times. I've done the half marathon and the marathon there. You can wear costumes, and that makes it 5 times as fun. I've done that one in costume a couple of times. It's a lot of fun. The people are good. Courses, again, it's just kind of moderate, not super challenging, but challenging enough that it's still give you a run for your money. Right. And as far as something that's further away, Ball State. Recommend that to everybody. It's life-changing. You do that and you come out of a different person, I think. Just definitely, I think it tests you mentally more than it does physically.
So this is, what's about, how long did that take you? 7, 8, 9 days or something?
There's a 10-day limit.
Right.
The first year that I did it in 7 days, 1 hour and 41 minutes. And the second year, 6 days, 20 hours and 10 minutes.
Fantastic. That's impressive. Okay. Anyway, you say this Buzzard Day was like a 3 or 4 out of 10. I actually found it deceptively difficult. It was harder than I thought it was going to be. So I think you did a great job even doing the 100K, because I did the 50 and I was very happy to be done. I was wiped out. And it took me about the same time to do the 50 as it took you to do the first 50s. And I was wiped out. So anyway, good job. And thanks a lot for talking to me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
All right. See you at Tunnel Hill, or maybe before then.
Yep, maybe.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Kimberly. That was very fun. She has a very good speaking voice. Also, if her first loop had not went awry like that, it's quite possible she would have won the race, because she was only 5 minutes behind the winner. Of course, having said that, maybe the winner would have sped up if they were closer together, but sounds like she lost quite a bit of time on her first loop. By the way, I got lost in my first loop too, twice, both times right at the ledges. So you get to the ledges and the flags, you see a flag, then you see another flag ahead, but there's not a path. You're basically picking your way through boulders to get there. So then you put your head down, right? Because you're kind of like trying to get through the boulders and looking, and then you get to the next flag. And at one point I don't know what I did. I just took off in one direction and there were no flags. So I had to backtrack. Probably lost just a couple of minutes there, not a whole lot of time. And it's funny because I was alone when I did that, and I get back, and right when I get back, there's a group of people, like 8 people. So I fall in line right behind them, and I follow them. All 8 of us went the wrong direction. That's where earlier I said that you had to take this left and go between 2 gigantic boulders and kind of climb straight up. We all missed that, every single one of us. There was a woman leading, and I think she went by it, and all the rest of us didn't bother to look up and pay attention. So that one cost us like 10 minutes. We went like 5 minutes down, and then people were stopped and were looking around, and we're like, oh, there's no flags. And so it took us a while to figure that one out. And then we all went back, still not knowing if we should go back. And then we get back to the spot where we should have turned left, and there's a big, gigantic sign there. I don't know how we missed it. It was ridiculous. Because the second loop, it was totally obvious to turn there. So it was all of us just not paying attention. Well, one person goes through it and the rest of us follow like sheep, and so we all missed it. So, but that was not the course marking's fault at all in either case. By the way, I made a little verbal miscue talking to her. I think I said Tunnel Hill was slow. I meant Tunnel Hill is fast. So when I did Tunnel Hill, I did not have a good day, but I still got a PR in the 100-mile because it is fast, not because it's slow. That makes no sense. Okay, so that's it for the Buzzard Day, except one more little thing that happened to me, which is kind of interesting. So I'll give you the background to this. It has to do with my car. Now, I claim that I was not born with the male car gene, and I don't know how much of a big deal this is today with younger people, but when I grew up in the 70s, and that's when I learned to drive, guys were really, 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 really into cars. Again, I don't know what teenagers are like now as far as that goes, because I only have a daughter. We were really into cars. Everyone got a car, and they fixed it up, and you tear the stereo out, or I should say the radio out. That's all that was ever in a car, and you'd put in your own stereo and cut holes in the back, and put speakers in, and then you detail the sides and do all this stuff. Everyone cared about these things. It's a big deal. I never cared. To me, a car has never been anything but a reason to go somewhere. I don't care about the engine in a car. I don't care about what it looks like. Yes, I have things I want it to do, but as long as it does it, I don't care. So I've completely lost that gene. I just never got it. So what I tend to do is I get a car. I just get the cheapest thing I can get that does what I want it to get, and I drive it till it dies, literally. I've taken a truck once to the junkyard, and I just gave it to the junkyard. I think I got $50 for it. That's about what I paid for the truck to start with. That's a story in itself. My car before this one was a Saturn. I bought it brand new off the lot. I think it was a 95, I think. Yeah, it's kind of. I just realized it's interesting because I've got a car every 10 years now. So I'm pretty sure it was a 1995 Saturn. Remember the Saturns? That's the one that not Oldsmobile, General Motors was making, and it's like they're all made in America, and they're really pushing those. They don't make them anymore. But I got one of those. I drove it until it was almost dead. Everything was wrong with it you could imagine. If it rained really hard, water would come in the windows. All types of things didn't work. And I just gave it to my sister because my niece was just starting out to drive, and they fixed it up a little bit, and my niece drove it. So I just gave it to them for free. Well, then I bought a 2005 Honda Civic. So 95 Saturn to 2005 Honda Civic. And this car died on the way home, but it was pretty dramatic. So this car, my 2005 Honda Civic, man, that thing was really falling apart. It had 320,000 miles on it. I had to put about a quart of oil in every single week because it went through so much oil. It dripped oil. I still got a spot in the back that's got a big oil spot that I need to clean up. It also, if it rained really hard, water would come in down the mirror, the rear view mirror, which is really weird. Only if it rained really, really hard. The windows didn't go up and down. The back windows did not go up and down at all. You couldn't do anything to make those go up and down. I had a big dent where I ran into a pole once. I just left it. Smashed up front fender. I just left it. Numerous other things. Locks that didn't work right, and a bunch of other stuff didn't work right. Anyway, I knew the thing was about to die, okay, but I've been putting off buying a new car. So on the way home from Buzzard Day, I had just gotten out of Cleveland, about 30 minutes outside of Cleveland. All of a sudden I hear a sound like that. And so I start to slow down, and right when I slow down, it went boom! I mean, really, 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 really loud. Like a explosion went off. And I was all the way maybe not in the leftmost lane. I don't know, I might have been. I think it was at a spot where there's 3 lanes, and I might have been in the middle lane. So I had to pull way over to the right. At first I was hoping it was just a tire, but it wasn't. I kind of knew it was, and I pulled way over to the right. When I kind of put it in the neutral and I'm just coasting, the engine dies, and then I stop, and then I'm seeing smoke come out of the engine. I knew right away what happened. I knew I blew a rod or whatever out of the engine. I mean, I knew. I opened up the hood, and there's smoke coming out all over the place. And however, I've got a bunch of oil in my trunk, so what the heck? I'm thinking, who knows? Maybe it's something. I knew it was dead, but I figured I'd mess around with it anyway. So I checked the oil. Of course, it's completely out of oil. I put oil in, and I actually get it started, and I'm just kind of driving down the side of the road on the interstate here. It's kind of tooling along, and it just dies again, and it's still making funny sounds, and it just sounds horrible. I know that because a rod is broken, and it's just pounding the inside of the cylinder or whatever. And I probably coasted like a half a mile, and the car died again. I get out, I check the oil. It's already low again. I get down underneath, and oil's just dripping. It's just dripping out of the car. I mean, drip, 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 like that fast. I'm like, I not only blew something, I've actually blown a hole in the engine somehow. Or a gasket or something's blown so badly, it's just dripping out. So that was the end of my car. So I had to call a tow truck. They towed it to a lot kind of nearby. Here's the story. So the tow truck driver just towed me and the car to a gas station nearby. My wife had to drive 3.5 hours to get me. And she didn't arrive till 8:30 p.m. or something, or 8, something like that. I don't know. But she had to drive all the way up to get me, and I'm stranded. And I had already made this deal with the tow truck. I ended up giving the car to the tow truck guy. I just gave it to him. So I got most everything out of my car. My wife drove me home. We got home at 1 a.m. Then the next week I went up and just signed the title over to the tow truck guy. Got the rest of my stuff out. That's it. That's the end of my car. So I bought another car. I bought a 2015 Honda Civic. Another Honda Civic, basically the exact same car. So I realize now I've got a 1995, a 2005, and now I have a 2015 Honda Civic. Anyway, that was pretty dramatic. When it blew up, that was like, whoa, that was really something. So that's what happened to me on the way home. So it makes for a good story. It's too bad the car had to blow up so far from home. My poor wife ended up driving 7 hours. 3.5 hour up, and then I drove back. So what a waste of her evening. Anyway, that's how the Buzzard Day 50K ended. I'll never forget the driving home from that one. All right, let's get to part 2 of the podcast, which is the Knoxville Marathon. let's see how long we've been going so far. I'll check my thing. We've been going for, it's real hard to see. Oh my God, this is going to be a long podcast. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I don't put too many out, I guess. Before I get into the Knoxville Marathon, this episode is brought to you by Health IQ. A couple of ways you can qualify for life insurance savings from Health IQ. For running, if you run at least 10 miles per a week, or for cycling, if you cycle at least 50 miles per week, that might get you savings. Also, screenshots of competitions and race results from the past 3 years might also get you life insurance savings. There are other ways you can get life insurance savings as well, but if are doing any of those things, you might get savings from Health IQ. So if you want more information, go to healthiq.com/endurance. Please check them out. See if you qualify for savings in health insurance. Okay, let's get right to the Knoxville Marathon. So I did the Knoxville Marathon in Knoxville, Tennessee, just 8 days after the 50K, basically the next weekend. And it turns out my daughter was going to do the half marathon. So she drove from Iowa here to Ohio. Her and her boyfriend drove to Ohio. And then the next day we drove straight south. Knoxville is almost exactly straight south of where we live. Again, we're right next to Cincinnati. So just straight south about 5 hours. And we drove down there on Saturday, March 24th, because the race was on Sunday. So me, my wife, my daughter, and her boyfriend. So 4 of us all drove down to the race. We went to the packet pickup at the convention center in Knoxville, Tennessee. And the parking there isn't really great. You kind of had to drive around. I suppose we could have went to a parking garage, but we were just hoping to find a free spot. And we weren't even sure. The parking garages didn't seem that close. They probably were. I don't know. Anyway, we drove around quite a bit to find a spot. I guess my point is just go in a parking garage or something. So we went into the convention center for packet pickup, and they had a pretty nice expo. A lot of stuff at the expo, a lot of booths at the expo. Our packet had a dark sleeve shirt, I'm grabbing here. We had I got like a dark navy blue tech shirt, which I'm holding up to the camera. By the way, this episode will be shown on YouTube. It's the exact same thing, but you watch me talk. So it says Covenant Health. Covenant is a hospital, I guess. Covenant Health, Knoxville Marathon. And it says that on the shirt, dark blue. Got our bib. My daughter had got a different color shirt. I forget what her color was for the half marathon. Our bib's got our name on it. So I'm number 374. It's got my name right on the bib, which is kind of cool. All right, so we picked that up the night before. Then we went to the Waffle House. No, IHOP. One of those. Yeah, we went to IHOP. I got a waffle at IHOP. That's where we went to eat. I asked my daughter where she wanted to go. She said IHOP. And I tend to not care what I eat the night before a meet. I'm lucky, I guess. Or I don't know. I just eat whatever I want to eat. So I had a big waffle. It's not something I would normally get. I love waffles. But of course, they're basically all sugar. But yeah, you can get it the night before a marathon. By the way, this race, Knoxville, is only about an hour from Frozen Head State Park, which is where the Barkley Marathon and marathons are held, which was going to be the week after. So we could have went to Frozen Head State Park and touched the Yellow Gate. So either you know what I'm talking about or you don't. But anyway, it's pretty close to that area. So race morning, we got up about 5 a.m. or so. They made this big deal about how horrible traffic was going to be, but it wasn't a problem at all. So we just drove right in. We were like 15 minutes away, and it took us 15 minutes. So it was no problem driving to the start. And my wife was basically going to have the car. My wife and Jonathan, the boyfriend, were going to have the car. So they were my wife figured out, where she wanted to park all the time. But her and Jonathan did come up. So we parked. She figured it out where to park. Fairly close. Of course, it's Sunday. I think you can kind of park anywhere for free on Sunday. So we parked fairly close, walked up to the convention center again. And what's really nice is the start of this is literally like 30 feet from the doors of the convention center, and the convention center was open. Really, really, really nice. That alone is a reason to consider this marathon. You don't have to stand out in the cold and freeze. I mean, you can stay in there till 90 seconds before the race, pretty much. So that was really nice. They did have a line of porta potties right outside of it, but of course there wasn't enough, like always. There were bathrooms inside, but I could see a big long line to the bathroom. So yes, as always, there weren't quite enough bathrooms. But no, that's the way. And I did go to the bathroom right when we got there, and then because we got there probably an hour ahead, and then like 20 minutes ahead, I wanted to go again, and I looked, and the lines were too long. So during the race, I ended up having to stop and use a porta potty, but who cares? Also, this convention center is built at the World's Fair Park in Knoxville because the World's Fair was there in 1982. And there's this big tower. And on top of the tower is this big golden sphere. And this is called the Sun Sphere. I guess it was built for the World's Fair. So that's right where it's at. Kind of a neat looking tower with this big golden sphere on top. And I guess you can go up it part way and look out over Knoxville. I never knew that till we got back home, and it's even free. I don't know what the hours are, but anyway, if you're there, that's something you can do. You can go up there and look over Knoxville. There's like an observation deck. Also, Bill Rogers was at the race, the great American marathoner. At the Packet Pickup, he actually gave a little talk. We didn't go to that. And my wife saw him as we were going to the convention center race morning. I think Bill ran the half. I should have looked up his time. Darn it. I didn't think about it. Maybe I'll correct that for next time. So I think he ran the half marathon. I'm guessing he didn't run the full. I don't know. I don't know what he ran, but I guess he was there warming up. I didn't know he was going to run. But my wife said, "There's Bill Rogers." I didn't turn around and see him. Actually, I've met Bill Rogers a few times because he does a race in my hometown every single year, the Big 7. So I've met him a few times at little signings. He signed my hats and stuff like that. So super nice guy, by the way. The great Bill Rogers. And I think he has a new book out. I need to check that book. So I think he ran the race. So I signed my daughter up for the half, and I think I screwed something up because somehow I was in corral C and she was in D. She was in a corral behind me, and the corrals are based on what you predict your finish time would be. So maybe I gave her a slower finisher time than I should have. I screwed something up. So she was in corral D, so I got in corral D with her, even though I was assigned to C because I didn't care. This ends up playing kind of a role in things, though. The reason is she was kind of shooting for 2 hours, and the 2-hour pace group guy was in corral C, way up in the front of it. So he was ahead of us, and it'll end up that he got about a 2 or 3 minute head start on us. So had I signed her up properly, I probably would have had her in the right corral right next to that guy. But I don't know what I did I don't know what I said I thought her finisher time would be or whatever. It's kind of weird when you have both corrals and pace groups because I guess maybe they put the pace group guy in the right corral that they think those people signed up for, if that makes sense. In any case, she had to try to play catch up the whole way to try to get up to the 2-hour pace group guy. It's actually the 4-hour pace group guy because they're pacing the marathon. So it really said 4 on the sign, but that's who she really wanted to run with the whole way. And she was never quite able to get there, as we'll find out later. Anyway, there was a 5K the night before, which was something because it was like, there was this big storm, like right when the 5K started. We were there at Packet Pickup, like when this happened. We're like, oh man, glad we're not doing that because it was like kind of nasty. And maybe not a storm, but it was raining or something, windy and rainy or something like that. The wheelchair and hand cycle started 7 minutes before our race. So we started at 7:30 and they started at 7:23. Now here's the thing. I didn't know there were 2 different types of cycles. I just saw this as I was reviewing for this podcast. It said the wheelchair/hand cycle started at 7:23 a.m. I had to look this up. I didn't know there were 2 different things. All I know is Tatiana McFadden. She's the great wheelchair racer for America. One of the greatest athletes of all time in any sport ever, by the way. Tatiana McFadden, absolutely unbelievable. And she does a wheelchair. Of course, they're modified wheelchairs, right? So that's where their arms are pushing the wheels, going round and round and round. There's also something called a hand cycle. And if you look at a picture of it, it's just how it sounds. They're sitting in a wheelchair that looks normal, but there's like a front wheel. And on the front wheel, you can use your hands and hold on to these like pedals with your hands and move the front wheel, as opposed to a wheelchair, your hands are moving the back wheels, right? It's a tricycle in any case. So the hand cycle moves the front wheel with these pedals. A wheelchair, you move the back wheels. I did not know there were two different things. I don't know if there's two different divisions, if there's a winner for the hand chair and a hand cycle and a winner for the wheelchair, if they race each other or what. But anyway, I did just learn something. There's two different types of wheelchair types of competitions, or two different types of wheelchairs, I guess. Anyway, we started at 7:30 along with the marathon, and the half marathon was a 4-person relay, so they're going to run a little over 6 miles each, which we did see the relay points as we go. You see these little spots, and it's where the relay people exchange. It was probably around 40 degrees. All week long, we were watching the weather because it kept predicting rain. And we got really lucky. About 3 days before the race, that started going down. And like I said, it rained Saturday. So we were pretty lucky. It ended up being beautiful. Absolutely perfect weather. It was in the 40s the whole day, low 40s. And I don't think it ever changed like 3 degrees, more than 3 degrees. It was kind of perfect-ish weather because 40s is wonderful running weather. Like I said, we got to stand inside before we took off anyway. Probably 5 minutes before the race started, we went out to the corral. So we were fine. What was funny is my daughter's the one who complains about the cold more than I do. But when we took off, she was without gloves, and I had gloves on. So it's kind of funny. But she did have long pants on, and I just had shorts. I had shorts, I had a long sleeve shirt, and then I had my vest. My vest is my number one favorite piece of gear, by the way, or clothing anyway. It's just a shirtless vest that zips up and down the front, and it's kind of windproof, and it's got like in the back it has ventilation. Actually, I have 2 of these. One's blue and one's nice bright orange for running in when you want people to see you well. So I think I had the orange one. Again, it's my favorite thing because you can really use it to adjust how warm you want to be. So I started with those and the gloves, and we ran together for about a half mile, which is totally cool. I got to run with my daughter in a race. A lot of fun. First time this is only our second race we've done together, but the other time we were doing 2 different races and started at 2 different times. So we actually ran side by side, or kind of close to side by side, for about a half a mile. And then she started going ahead of me because she was going to go at a faster pace than me. So I kind of saw her. Maybe for a total of a mile, I could kind of see her, and then I never saw her again. As it is with bigger city marathons, it was pretty crowded at the beginning. I don't really care. I'm not trying to win anything, so just kind of run with people. And it stayed fairly busy, fairly crowded until, for me, until about the halfway point. That at the split, it got way more sparse. A lot of people were doing the half, and then, I wouldn't say I was on my own anymore, but there was rarely anybody like right next to me after that. A little bit about the course. This is really interesting. So here's what they say on the website. Knoxville Marathon, folks. It says, all routes are relatively flat and fast, with scenic views of downtown Knoxville and its major landmarks. The routes have been designed for our athletes to enjoy views of downtown Neyland Stadium, that's the University of Tennessee, and many other Knoxville highlights. Now here's the key. The first part was all routes are relatively flat and fast. I don't know what they are talking about. This is one of the hilliest marathons I've ever run in my life. And I haven't run marathons for a while now. It's like my first one in like 7 years. Quite a while. I don't know. I haven't, maybe I've done 1 or 2 in the last 7 years. This was not relatively flat or fast. Now, compared to a trail race, which is what I'm doing more now, yes, it is flat. But that's not what they're comparing this to. This is not flat and fast. I don't know why they wrote that. It's insane. Okay? So my watch measured 1,300 feet up and 1,300 feet down. Another blog I read said about 1,200. So let's say 1,200 to 1,300 feet. Yes, that is very flat for like a 50K, like Buzzard Day, which was 3,400. Yes, it's flat compared to that. But it's not flat for a marathon. For example, The Boston Marathon is 540 up and 920 down. Boston's overall downhill. Boston's considered hilly. And it's 540 up and 920 down. That's a hilly marathon. New York is considered fairly hilly because you go over the bridges. That's 850 up and 850 down. Flying Pig in Cincinnati is probably the other hilliest marathon I've ever done. It's about 1,000 up and 1,000 down. This was 12 to 1,300 feet. So this probably is the hilliest marathon I've ever done. The Quad City Marathon, the first one I ever did. Start over. The Quad Cities Marathon, the first one I ever did, is pretty hilly, and I didn't look up the elevation on that. So, but I don't think that was as hilly as that. Maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway, this is not flat at all. Okay, to describe the hills, I mean, there's every single type of hill. There's very shallow hills that go on for 2 miles. There's really steep, short things, and really uphills and really steep, short downhills. There's kind of medium length, longer uphills and down. And yes, there were flat sections. Absolutely, there were times you're running pretty flat for a while. There was also one part you're going through a park, and it's just like up and down, up and down, up and down, like rollers. 10 feet up, 10 feet down, 10 feet up, 10 feet down, that type of stuff, which wears on you, okay? That takes energy. So the Knoxville Marathon is just completely out of whack when they say this is flat. So I kind of felt bad because I tell my daughter, I told her, hey, this is flat. No, it wasn't. So I'm like feeling kind of bad the whole way, but so what? I mean, that just means she conquered something more epic, right? So there you go. If you ever want to do this, ignore that business. Because, again, if you're an ultra runner, used to running hills or mountains, yes, you will find it flat. But my mindset changes. I mean, when I get on the road and I do a marathon, my mindset changes. I'm not in ultra mindset. In an ultra, I'm walking the hills if I have to. I'm not going to walk the hills in a marathon. At least that's not my mindset. And I didn't walk any. But I went darn slow on some of them. And I was just surprised at all the hills. There were aid stations every couple of miles, I think. Enough of them. They seem like they're constant compared to an ultra. A lot of aid stations. They had water and they had sport drink. I forget what the sport drink was. A couple of them had gels. I had a waist belt with me. And I put gels in there, but I also stole some gels from the aid stations. Just a couple of them. I'm not even sure if on the first half there was. It might have been. So you could get gels 2 or 3 times there were gels. One little spot had jelly beans, I think that right before the half. You went up this steep little hill, and at the top, it's like if you conquer the hill, they give you a little bag of jelly beans. So I stole a bag of jelly beans. That's about it, though, and that's plenty. That's all you need. About mile 6, we saw Deb and my wife, Deb, and my daughter's boyfriend, Jonathan. We saw them around mile 6 or 7. And I ripped off my vest and my gloves, and I threw them to Deb, so I didn't have to wear those the rest of the way. I was warmed up. I almost regretted it because my hands got cold again after that for a while. But then the second half, I was warmed up enough. So I was glad I did give it to her because I never saw them again. And for spectators, you can get around to various spots on the course. So I think they had no problem getting to mile 6. And there were some other spots they could have went to. But when my daughter finished the half, they were going to take care of her. So I told them, don't try to find me in the second half. All right. I texted them during that part to tell them what was happening. But you could see if you're going there to spectate someone, it's not, I think, a huge issue to find them in 3 or 4 spots on the course. My halfway time was 2:03:45. And after the split, like I said, it did thin out quite. I think we split around mile 12. Between maybe 12 and a half. It was pretty close to the end. Somewhere around there, we split. And it did thin out quite a bit after that. And then we ran through like this industrial type of section. It seemed like a little bit, maybe a little. We went over a big like highway bridge. That was kind of weird. Like up on like a fast road, up the ramp. Up the on-ramp. And then we went over something. It might have been where we went over the bridge. We went over the Tennessee River, I think, at that point. So maybe it was a bridge, I guess, we were running over. And then we came back off the bridge on the other side. And this is one spot that did feel really flat. kind of ran for like a couple of miles into a neighborhood and looped. The neighborhood was kind of hilly, but then we ran again flat for a mile or two. So that was to me the flattest few miles in that area. And then we went back over the Tennessee River again at some point. Now, although that's escape, I can't picture it in my mind anymore. But, oh, yeah, I do, because it was very close to the end. That was like mile 25. That's right. We went back over, and as you're going over, you're looking into downtown. So you're getting closer to where you started. Okay, you're looking right into downtown. You ran through the downtown a little bit, which I'll talk about a bit later. And then you don't finish at the start. You actually finish at the football stadium, which is like a half mile from the start. So that's kind of neat. So you run through the downtown, then you go, but right before the finish, you're like a half mile from the actual finish line. You run down this real steep spot, and it's not very long, but it's really steep. And at that point, your legs are kind of ouchy, and you're like, ow, 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 you know, braking going down this hill. And then you bottom out, and you run right back up to the stadium. So kind of a kick butt finish there if you're pretty worn out. So just, huffing it up to try to not walk up this last hill into the stadium. Then you run under the concourse into the stadium, and you finish in the stadium, which is pretty neat. I guess as you were coming across the finish line, like on the big scoreboard, they put a video of you. I didn't even notice it. I didn't know they did that. I was told later. Everybody was there waiting for me when I got there. I was told later that we were on the scoreboard, I guess. I didn't see it. But they did send you a little 10-second clip of you finishing. They sent that to you by email later, which is kind of neat. So you could see yourself finish. Like I said, the temperature stayed steady all day. We were lucky it didn't rain. Another thing that was really neat was there were signs all over the course, like signs just put there, and they're very funny signs. And I have such a horrible memory, I can't remember them very well, but really funny. Like there was Darth Vader, a picture of Darth Vader, and it wrote, "I find your lack of speed disturbing." Just silly, dumb things like that, all over the course. Like you're going up a hill, and there'd be a sign every 10 feet with some other funny thing about going up the hill. At one point, this was after the halfway point, there was a sign saying, "You're almost there." And then another sign saying, "Almost there, almost there." And then you see like a finisher chute, like a big arch. So you run under the arch, and after you go through the arch, it says, "You're there." And of course, it's nothing, right? It's just like mile 15 in the race. But it's pretty amazing that they set you up with this. Like, you're almost there. You know you're not done, but you're wondering what it is that you're coming to. Well, you're coming to nothing, okay, whatsoever. So amusing things like that, which I like, and that keeps you kind of laughing the whole way. When we finished, we got some cool stuff. I was pretty darn impressed. We got a hat. I've got so many hats now, but almost all race hats, but I still love getting hats. This is black, and it's a nice tech hat that says Covenant Health Knoxville Marathon. 2018 finisher on the back, so you only got this if you finished the marathon, by the way. The half marathon people didn't get that. This was really amazing. I didn't know what it was at first. I thought it was just a towel. It's a big thing that looks like a towel, but it's for your car seat. And it says Covenant Health Knoxville Marathon, blah, 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 some other stuff on it. And you put it on your car seat. I have one of these, but this one feels a lot better. And I use mine all the time. So it's when you're all stinky and sweaty and you don't want to get your car seat stinky and sweaty, you put this on your car seat. I use mine constantly. So now I have two of them, and this one's nicer. So now I can have one for the other seat in case there's someone else in my car who's stinky and sweaty. So that's pretty cool. Really, really, really like this. So finally I can put that out in my car now. And, of course, we got a medal. Pretty big medal. Let's see what it says. Covenant Health Knoxville Marathon, 26.2 miles. Finisher. Says that. Oh, it's got a picture of the sun sphere on it, which is kind of neat. Engraved on it, the sun sphere. Kind of a downtown picture of downtown on it, engraved. So that's what we got for finishing. So some good stuff for finishing the race. Pretty impressed with that. What else? After the race, there was quite a bit of food. There was some pizza, pretty lousy pizza, to be honest. I had like one slice of it where I don't even think I ate the crust because it's like, I'm going to waste my energy on that. Oh, they did have pints of chocolate milk. I think I slammed a couple of those down. Had some of the pizza. maybe something else, like an orange or something. I had a couple of things. I just wanted to hurry up and get a bunch of carbs in, basically. So I slammed a little bit of food down, but didn't totally pig out because it's kind of junky food, right? I think they did have some soup and had something else that they made, like breakfast biscuits or something. That's not what it was, or else I would have eaten that. But it was something like that, but I didn't eat it for some reason. I just wanted to get something in my gut. So, but they did have food. They also had a bunch of free pop, like just cans of Coke. You could just grab cans of Coke, which is kind of interesting. So I think I grabbed a can of Coke, but I didn't drink it. I think I gave it to my daughter or something. I might have had a Diet Coke. Coke is just too sugary for me. Anyway, my final time was 4:12:38. So I did the first half in about 2:04 and the second half in about 2:09. Pretty happy with that, actually. I had just randomly, I didn't know what I could run this in since I didn't train for it specifically, but I kind of had 4:15 in my head, and I did 4:12 something. So seems pretty happy. The 4:15 pace guy, I passed him at like mile 6 or something, right about when I saw my wife and Jonathan, but he passed me later. And then I think I caught up to him right at like mile 25. So I ran with him about the last mile, but then the last half mile, I kind of scooted ahead a little bit, which is kind of funny because at mile 6, he had a big group of like 20, 30 people with him. By the end, he had 2. So he had lost a lot of his group. And I'll bet a lot of that is because they couldn't handle the hills. The hills were, again, if you know there's hills, and yeah, the pacer might know it well and could pace himself well on them. I bet a lot of those people just got killed trying to go up and down those hills. That would be my guess, because he lost a lot of people. But I think he paced it right, so nothing he can do about that. So 4:12:38, that's almost 45 minutes off my PR, which doesn't sound good. But A, I'm 8 years older than when I set that PR. B, I didn't train for this specifically. I just threw it in. C, it had hills, which I didn't even know about, but my PR is on a completely flat course. So I still think I could go into 4 hours. Pretty sure I could on a flat course if I trained a little bit more. So I kind of want to, the back of my mind, I'd kind of like to train for a marathon again. I've been saying that for a couple of years, but I haven't had a time to fit that block in. And I have got some other issues. I'm afraid of doing speed work. I'm afraid I'll pull a calf muscle or something. So anyway, my overall, I was 229th out of 554 finishers. So 550 people did this roughly. I was 229, top half, I guess. 165 of 365 males, top half. 4 of 18 in my age group, though. 4 of 18 in the male, 55 to 59. That's not bad, considering I didn't train. 4 of 18, I feel kind of happy about that. It's kind of interesting. They gave you this statistic, and it said that in the last half, the second half, I passed 40 people and 9 passed me. That kind of makes me feel good. Like, I was strong in the second half type of thing. The shoes I wore, by the way, were my Skechers Go Run Ultra Road 2. I hate the name. It's just too long. I really like Skechers. I'm telling you right now. That's my go-to road shoe right now. Skechers Go Run Ultra Road 2. I want to try the versions that are not Ultra. They have just the Go Run, whatever, Road 2 or something. I need to try those, but these are pretty darn good. My daughter ran it in 2:03:13, so she almost got that 2 hour. She said she never quite caught up to the pace group guy. So you have to wonder if she could have stood next to him at the beginning. Could she have kept with him? That's possible, because once you lose sight of him, then obviously she didn't know exactly how to go, because she's not right next to him. But she maybe. But this was her first half marathon, and it was unexpectedly hilly. I am super impressed. So she must have kept very steady, because she started about 3 minutes behind him. I finished 3 minutes behind him. Actually, that means obviously she still ran a little slower than that guy, but or that person. But still, that's pretty darn good. 3 minutes off and 2 hours. What's that? It's just a number. She had no real idea. That's good. And get this, she was 611th of 1971 overall. So almost 2,000 people ran the half. So that's why it got so sparse, because only 550 did the full and 2,000 did the half. So a lot of people left after that split. She was 213 of 1,052 females. 213, about in the top 20% almost. And 29th of 120, again, probably about the top 25%. 29th of 120 in the female 20 to 24. Again, her first half marathon. And even among her peers, she's top 25%. I'm really impressed. I'm pretty sure had it been less hilly, she could have went under 2 hours. Anyway, I got an interview with her, and this is kind of funny because I interview her and I say goodbye, and then I thought of another question. So you'll hear the interview continue after the other question. So here we go, interview with my daughter. Okay, I'm with Tia Smith. Second time on the show, right?
Yep.
From Iowa City, Iowa?
Yep.
And you just did the Knoxville half marathon yesterday.
Yep, I did.
Okay, so this was your first half marathon, road marathon.
Yes.
Were you nervous before the start?
A little bit, but I figured I could do it, so I just went with it.
What did you eat on race morning?
I had a Cliff Bar, and I had a little bit of chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk?
Yep. Not a lot, just a little bit.
Any water or Gatorade?
I had a little bit of Gatorade.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about the night before? Do you know what you had for supper the night before? What do we have? We did not have pasta.
IHOP.
Oh, IHOP. We went to
I had
IHOP,
an omelet.
right? You had an omelet the night before. Okay. So during the race, was your stomach fine the whole time?
Yeah, I felt okay.
So that's a good sign. And it was pretty crowded when we were running.
Yeah, it was pretty crowded the whole way. Or for my half marathon.
It was pretty crowded. So your original goal was to see how close you could get to 2 hours, but we started kind of behind. So
Yeah.
you had to fight to try to get up to the 2 hour, the 2 hour pace guy, which is really the 4 hour pace guy. Did you ever manage to catch him?
No, I passed the 4:15 guy who started ahead of me. I saw the four flag thing, but
Right.
I wasn't able to ever catch up to him.
Didn't quite get there.
Nope.
So you end up finishing around 2:03, is that correct?
Yep.
How did the first half of the race go? Were you feeling good the first half?
Yeah, the first 7 miles went pretty easy.
And then the race was kind of hilly, wasn't it?
Yes.
Very hilly.
Yeah, it was more hilly than I was expecting.
Yeah. So when you came to the hills, did you just try to keep going as fast, or did you kind of slow down for the hills
Yeah, I tried to slow down to save energy.
and then speed up a little going back down?
Yeah.
At any point when you were going down the hills, did that become uncomfortable?
A little bit, yeah. There were some times where I kind of had to slow myself down.
Because they're kind of steep downhills.
Yeah.
And it actually is kind of hard to run steep downhills.
Yeah.
Kind of hurts because you're putting on the brakes,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
How about the second half of the race? When do you think kind of the legs are starting to kind of yell at you? Like, oh, this is getting pretty tough.
It was probably the last, 5K of it. Last
Around
3 miles.
around mile 10 or so.
Yeah.
So was it your legs that were getting painful, or was it, what do you think was kind of starting to slow you down? Was it like your thighs or feet or calves or just overall energy running out?
Yeah, I think it was mostly my breathing was getting harder. I felt okay physically,
Right.
but my stamina, I guess,
I see.
harder to keep up.
Right. So the second half of the race, do you kind of feel like you were just holding on as best you can to just keep doing what you could do?
Yeah, I was trying to check my pace most of the way at the start,
Right.
to make sure I wasn't going too fast and to try to keep up with the 2 hour pace.
Right.
But the last 4 miles, I actually didn't look at all. I just kind of went. I was like, this feels okay. I'm just going to go with it.
You didn't want to know anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of just going as fast as you can go. During the race, did you drink much at the aid stations? How often do you think you got something from the aid stations?
I stopped 3 times and got some Gatorades. I think I only stopped once in the first half and then twice in the last half.
Did you eat anything at all during the race?
No, I didn't eat anything.
Not even the jelly beans?
Nope.
I see. The last couple of miles, do you think you were really hurting or just kind of not too bad, just kind of trying to hold on?
Yeah, I think I was kind of mostly trying to hold on, but I think it was because of the hills.
Right.
The last.
Did you have to get to the point where you had to walk up some of the hills a little bit?
Yeah, there was a few times I had to stop to walk.
More in the second half?
Yeah.
And then at the end, we finished by going up one last hill and then into the stadium.
Yeah,
Right.
that was really tough.
Yeah. Was it fun running in the stadium, though?
Yeah, that was cool.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And when you were done, you got a medal, right?
Yep.
Before the race, you got a shirt.
Yep.
All right. And overall, given your training and everything, how do you think it went? You're pretty happy?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
I think given that it was such a hilly race, 3 minutes away from kind of your goal, which is just a number, right? It's not like you had a real idea of what you could do. You just made a number of 2 hours.
Yeah, I was just hoping to be around there somewhere.
3 minutes off that, pretty darn good.
Yep. I think
Flatter race, I think you would have made it.
Yeah, I might try to do a flatter one some other time.
Yeah, I think you definitely get under 2 hours, as long as your training goes just as well.
Yeah.
What was your longest run before the race? Did you do one 12 mile?
I ran 12 miles once a few months ago on a treadmill going at a way slower pace. Most of my longer runs were only 10.
Do you know how long that 12 mile?
I think it took like 2 hours and 12 minutes.
And here you
I would
did
say.
13.1 on hills in 2:03.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
All right. So now you can take a few days off, chill out,
Yep.
enjoying Knoxville.
Yeah, pretty fun.
Nice place.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, what did you think about the crowds on the course? Spectators.
Well, I didn't see too many, but there were probably little groups of people every couple miles or so, and that was fun to see. All the people holding up signs and stuff.
There are a lot of signs on the course, a lot of joke signs.
Yeah, they were fun to read while
That was
I
really
running.
fun to read.
Yeah.
That was good. But I think there wasn't long stretches of running without people, don't you think? There was pretty good spectator support.
Yeah.
So what did your boyfriend Jonathan think of the whole thing?
I don't know.
Jonathan!
Probably pretty bored.
Come here. What did you think of the half marathon that she ran?
I was really proud of her. Proud that she reached her goal.
Did you cheer her on when you saw her about mile 6?
Heck yeah.
Good picture?
Yeah, it's pretty
And I was
really
right
cool.
in front of you.
Yeah, it's crazy how much dedication and work actually goes into it. You don't really know until you actually are with somebody who actually does that. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Impressive.
Yeah, very impressive.
All right. Very good. Okay, there you go. I forget what I was going to say. Anyway, that was that, I guess. She does have another half marathon in a couple of weeks in Iowa City. It's got a couple little hills, but I'm sure it's flatter than Knoxville. So maybe she'll get under 2 hours, but if she doesn't, she doesn't. Either way, it's good that she's running. That's what counts. And that's it for that race, I guess. I would say overall, I liked the race. I totally recommend it. Fun race. Just be prepared for the hills, but I enjoyed it very, very much. I know what I was thinking. It's kind of funny that she says she didn't make it out like the crowd support was that much. To me, it was tons because I've gotten used to trail races where you can run 3 hours without seeing anyone, except maybe you'll see someone on the course, or maybe not even that. So to me, there's constant spectators, all right? I mean, all over. You barely ran without going by a spectator every block at least, or crowds of them or something. But she hasn't really experienced that, this running all by yourself in a race so much. So we have a little bit different perspective on that. But I'm almost not used to having so many spectators anymore, which I love. I've done the Chicago Marathon, which is lined the whole 26.2 miles with people. Plenty of spectators there. After the race, well, while I was doing the second half, they all went back to the hotel so Tiana, my daughter, could get showered and everything, and then they met me at the end at the stadium. And then right after I ate chocolate milk or something. And we went right from there. I don't know if I showered. I probably showered first, I guess. I must have, because I ate a little bit of food right at the end. So I think we went and showered. Then we went to Burger King. Yeah, I know. Woohoo. But this wasn't going to be my big meal. I just was in the mood for a juicy burger. That's all I cared about. I just wanted to get a big burger in me. And I know Burger King is not the highest quality burger, but actually it's pretty darn good. I don't even think I ate the bun. I think I took the bun off and just ate like a double Burger King burger with bacon and cheese on it or something like that. That's all. I don't even think I got fries. I just put a big gigantic pile of fat and protein in me. Then after that, we went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, because like I said in talking about Buzzard Day, if I can pack something else into going to a race, I will. So we all went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's like 90 minutes southeast of Knoxville, and you're almost in North Carolina, right? At the foothills of the Great Smokies. So we went there. If you've never been to Gatlinburg, it's one street long. That's a tourist trap. If you've been to Niagara Falls, it's kind of like that street there, and I'm sure there's other places like this. It's just like so many blocks long. Like this is like 10 blocks long. Truckee, California. Well, no, Truckee's not so touristy in the gimmicky way. Truckee's just a bunch of shops. There's a lot. Galena, Illinois. There's a lot of places that have all the shops. So this has all the shops, but on top of that, it has like the Ripley's Believe It or Not stuff. So you got a Ripley's Believe It or Not wax museum, and you've also got like you can get on a cable car and go up a cable car up into the mountain and back down. Another goofy stuff like that. So there's a bunch of restaurants, a bunch of shops, a few little, like a Ripley's 4D theater and crazy stuff like that. And it's on the side of a hill. It's actually not hard, but you're walking up either up or down a hill. And after running a marathon, yeah, my legs were kind of tired, but that's kind of good because it just kept the blood flowing, I think, in my legs. So it was kind of useful. So we parked kind of at the lower end and just walked all the way up to the upper end and walked down, and that was it. We ended up not doing a darn thing. I kept looking into, do we want to do this? Do we want to go up the cable car? And every time I calculated the price, I'm like, no, I don't. You could just do a couple of things and be out over $200 if you have 4 people like we did. I mean, just add up. So I'm like, forget it. My daughter and I actually went to Gatlinburg like 10 years ago when she was littler. Maybe it was more than 10 years ago. My goodness. And so we did all that goofy stuff. And we also did it in Niagara Falls once. So we've done that goofy stuff. And luckily she's 22 now. She doesn't like have to do it and, without crying or something, she's fine. Not like when a kid's 8, right? You feel compelled to do all that goofy stuff. So we ended up not really doing anything. I don't know if I bought a thing. You think I would have bought something, but I don't think we did. To get to Gatlinburg, you go through Pigeon Forge. That's where Dollywood is. Pigeon Forge, and then this town called Sevierville, and then Gatlinburg. And on the way back from Gatlinburg, probably early evening, we stopped and ate at a place called J.T. Hannah's. Pretty good. I recommend it. Kind of a nicer place to sit down. I had fish and chips. You could get, stuff like that, or burgers, or fajita. I think my wife got fajitas or something. Pretty good place. I don't know why I didn't get a beer. I don't think I got a beer, but it's called J.T. Hannah's. I think that was in Sevierville or Pigeon Forge or one of them. But that's what we did in the evenings. That was kind of nice. Just a good way to end the day, right? Just go and walk up and down Gatlinburg and look at all the people and go through all the shops and stuff like that and get a nice meal. So that was it. So that is it for my races. However, I'm not quite done. I've got a couple more things left. Sometimes I put in a general education segment. And so for this general education segment, I'm going to talk about what we did the next day on Monday. So kind of still with the Knoxville Marathon, but not anymore. The next day we went to the American Museum of Science and Energy. Okay, not the Science and Industry, that's in Chicago. This is the American Museum of Science and Energy in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So I'm going to talk about that for our little general education segment. This is about 45 minutes west of Knoxville, kind of toward Frozen Head State Park, by the way. So we went there. So the American Museum of Science and Energy is dedicated to the history of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, ORNL, originally created as a part of the Manhattan Project to produce uranium-235 for the atomic bomb. And for all of you, I'm sure some of that rings a bell. The Manhattan Project, that's the secret project to create the atomic bomb in World War II. And they built these various sites around the country to help in the production of the uranium and the plutonium used in those first atomic bombs. Okay, and it was all very secretive. which is what part of this museum is about. So there's a museum here in Oak Ridge. All right. Now it works. Now Oak Ridge works on nuclear energies and materials. It was only $5 to get into it. It's owned by the U.S. Department of Energy and managed under Oak Ridge National Laboratory. It opened in 1949. I'm not sure it's been open continuously since then, but it opened in 1949 in an old wartime cafeteria. The present facility opened in 1975 and continues to provide the general public with energy information. So they're focused on this energy business, so they want you to think they are. Nowadays, the Oak Ridge National Laboratory helps to ensure America's security and prosperity by addressing its energy, environmental, and nuclear challenges through transformative science and technology solutions. Of course, maybe there's still secret stuff going on in there, right? We wouldn't know. Now, here's the funny thing. Total coincidence. A couple of hours ago, when I was eating lunch, I was reading, and I came across an article about the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. I mean, what are the odds of this, folks? It's like 3 hours ago. I had lunch. It's middle of the afternoon now. So I was reading my Discover magazine. I'm way behind on it. This is a year old. I'm just behind on it. I have a whole bunch of magazine subscriptions, so sometimes I fall behind. I'm on a Discover magazine sprint right now, going through a bunch of them. Anyway, there's an article about the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. I'll be darned. So I'm going to read the article here. It's very short little. It's just a short little coverage of something, of a discovery. It says the discovery is the electrons were split in a new form of matter. See if I can read this. Physicists have found a new state of matter that's both over and understating it. The solid, liquid, gas trifecta still holds strong. What's important about this new type of matter happens at the quantum scale. Magnetically, the electrons behave as though they are split in two. Researchers detected the behavior in a crystal of ruthenium trichloride at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee. They used a huge particle accelerator to shoot neutrons at the sample and observed the patterns that formed when those neutrons bounced off and splattered on a detector. I'm not sure splattered is the word the scientists would use. Electrons in the crystal acted together to produce a so-called quasi-particles. The electrons act like they're broken apart, though they haven't been literally broken apart. The quasi-particles produced here, called Majorana fermions, are their own antimatter. They suggest the presence of an unusual state of matter known as a quantum spin liquid, which was predicted in this form a decade ago, but has never been before observed. Like many discoveries in the quantum world, this one published online in April in Nature Materials, that'd be like 2 Aprils ago, could open new avenues in quantum computing and materials science. That's a long way off, though. For now, the researchers say they're happy to have achieved a new weird behavior of nature. So there you go. I'm a chemist, and even I did not understand all of that. And antimatter is always interesting. After every particle, there's a theoretical antiparticle. If they ever meet up, they just annihilate each other and produce energy. So there's an electron and a positron. They're just the anti of each other. It's the exact same thing, except they have different charge. So electron has a negative charge. A positron is really an electron with a positive charge. If they ever hit each other, they just produce energy. But I've never heard of a quantum spin liquid. That's not the type of chemistry I am an expert at. So I didn't even know what all of this is. This is this is physics and chemistry, the intersection of physics and chemistry. That's not my type of chemistry. But anyway, the point is just to give you a little tiny idea of what they're still doing. Okay, that's just pretty basic research that's going on there at Oak Ridge. Okay, so the museum. What about the museum? This is where we went to, and I'm telling you right now, you should go to this museum. It's a really cool little museum, $5. The museum emphasizes not only the work done in 1943 to 45 during World War II, but the city and the people who work there, which is in some ways more fascinating. Lots of science also regarding how the purification was done. They're purifying this uranium-235. It's very interesting how it was kept secret. This was unbelievable. I did not know the extent of the secrecy of this. They built a city. This city did not show up in any maps. No maps. And of course, there's not really satellites, so the other countries don't know there's a city there. They can't really do that now, right? But they built a city that's on no maps. Okay, obviously, people had lived in the area. They shunted all those people out, and some of them stayed to work, but they had to leave, and they just created this area. It's very interesting how they picked the area. That was fascinating to learn about. And even the people in nearby towns didn't know what was going on. All they knew was they were doing some research or they were doing something for the war. That's about, and I'm not even sure they knew it was for the war. They kind of knew maybe it might be kind of for the war, but it was just very secret. If you worked there and there were hundreds of employees, you had to keep your mouth shut. They told you what to say if you ran into someone, like literally like the sentence that you would tell someone. People went there and worked there and did not tell their spouse what they were doing, that type of stuff. All these people managed to keep it secret. Unbelievable to me. A whole city keeping things secret. They're bringing in uranium that's nuclear, that's radioactive. They're purifying it, taking the uranium out of the city in little bits and pieces in like suitcases, secretly taking out of the city to Los Alamos, New Mexico, which is where they're going to put it into a bomb. Okay, unbelievable what they're all doing, and no one knows what's going on. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. So a lot of the first floor was all about this. So exhibits, the first floor is called The Story of Oak Ridge, and again, it talks not only about the city and all the secrecy and stuff like that, but it's really fascinating. They had historical photographs, documents, artifacts, and relating to not only the city itself, but also the science, so the purification, how they were doing the purification, what type of science was going on there, and instruments and things people wore, and a lot of photographs and things like that. They also had they had to build homes, so they built all these houses that were kind of identical or close to being identical, called flat top houses. And they actually had one there. They kind of moved an old flat top house there. You could walk through it. Pretty neat. Tiny little thing, but they could build them really fast. They had models of weapons, protective clothing, tools, little video right there in that section that demonstrated the processes and safety features and so forth to purify the uranium. There were also they have a theater. We saw about 2 or 3 films. All the films were good about Oak Ridge or about the science. I can't remember. I feel like there were 3 of them. I can't quite recall all 3. And we watched them all. About the Manhattan Project itself. Really neat. Also, they did a demonstration. There was a lady who did a demonstration with a Van de Graaff generator. You may have seen this. This is like a big sphere, a metal sphere about a foot or 2 wide. And if you touch it, it passes electricity through you and your hair stands on end. But she talked all about the science around that. Really good presentation. And we all got to go up and touch it and have our hair stand on end. I'll put a picture of us doing that. Really kind of fun to do. And the thing is, too, okay, so this lower level museum, the only bad thing about it is there's a whole bunch of written stuff on the walls. So there'd be like an artifact, and then you'd have to read a big, long thing. Man, no way do you really want to read all that. There's just way too much to read. So at first I'm like, ugh. But that same lady gave a tour of it. And that was great. So that's the way to do it. And they said 11:30 or something, we're going to do the tour. So we all met up with her and she gave us a tour of that whole lower level. That was really, really, really good because then you didn't have to read every little thing, which would have taken hours to read it all. So the tour was great. She was really good. And then on top of all that took us a couple hours to go through, to see all the movies and the tour and to look at everything. That was at least 2.5 or 3 hours. But then there's a whole huge upstairs with all types of stuff. A lot of it just to do with different types of energy production. So like fossil fuels, solar, nuclear, etc. A bunch of other stuff. They had things about nuclear bombs. They had replica bombs and missiles that you could look at. They had a 1,500-pound chunk of coal. It's like the size of a kitchen table, a dining room table, 1,500-pound chunk of coal, which you could touch. It's kind of neat. They had that. Things about the real basic science, things about what an atom is and maps of the world's energy resources and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of almost too much. We kind of just flew through all of that. It still took us an hour, I bet, just to go through all of that. That alone could be a standalone museum. Well, the top and bottom could be a standalone museum. So there was just a lot to see there. I totally recommend it. Very fascinating. There's also a bus tour. So this bus tour is kind of weird. It left like right when the museum opened, but to get on it, you were supposed to try to sign up online, and they have this weird online sign-up system. You don't know when they're going to put it up to sign up to get on the bus. It just goes up, and I missed it, and it filled up. But actually, they only fill up half the bus. The other half are for people who show up that day. So we get there 15 minutes before it opens, like at 8:45. There's 50 people in front of us, a whole group of old people. I mean, older than me. So they must have known because they took all of the spots. The 4 people ahead of us were the first 4 people that did not get on the bus. So honestly, I was kind of a jerk. I was really annoyed by this. But in the end, I'm kind of happy because had we done the bus tour, which is like 2.5 hours, we would have missed the ladies' little tour of the downstairs. We would have missed the films. So I kind of glad. And the bus tour takes you to various buildings related to all this history. Like, oh, this was a building where they were doing this type of separation or this type of work, and maybe a building where people lived. There's different buildings related to the history of Oak Ridge or what they're doing now. So you can't do them both in one day. I think they should try to redo this a little bit so somehow you can do them both in one day, and also fix this sign-up business, which is goofy. So I kind of want to go back there and do the bus tour, but I did not. We did not do the bus tour because it was all full. Anyway, that was it for the Oak Ridge National Laboratory Museum, the American Museum of Science and Energy. Yes, definitely go there. Just that lower level, even if you're not a total science geek, if you're kind of history-ish person, I would recommend it. Very fun to look at. By the way, after that, that took till late afternoon. We went to downtown Knoxville. Just kind of wandered around downtown. It's got some cute little shops and restaurants and stuff like that. I guess that's like off campus, just off campus. So we did wander around there a little bit. Nice little off campus area with bars and stuff. We just ate at a Mexican restaurant. We went to a few shops, ate at a Mexican restaurant. I think they have like a chocolate shop too and frozen yogurt shop maybe. I don't know. And that is it. That's it as far as my 2 races. Done with that. All right, just a couple of more little things and we're done. Number 1, some local people did things. I'm not sure why I'm really mentioning it now because I almost want to do a whole show on runners in this area near Cincinnati and runners in Ohio because we have a whole bunch of really good runners. So I should probably every week I should do this. Maybe I'll start doing that every week. Start highlighting some runners in the area. I did just highlight Helen Guerin, the one who did the 50K. And Kimberly herself is an Ohioan. But maybe every week I should start highlighting some folks from Ohio. So here's a couple. Congrats to Annetta Zepatella, which I like saying her name, Annetta Zepatella, and Jennifer Russo. They just finished the Hellbender 100. So if you heard about that, I guess it was quite a grueling race, a brand new 100-mile race in North Carolina with basically the elevation of Hard Rock, of the up and down of the elevation change of Hard Rock. Obviously, it's not as high, but you're in the mountains of North Carolina. I guess it was pretty darn grueling. And it was the first year they finished it. Absolutely fantastic. Carl Meltzer came and won it. To give you an idea about... And it took him almost 22 hours. And he's pretty fast. So it gives you an idea of how hard that race is. So... sounds like a grueling race. Congrats to those 2 for finishing. Also, this is not ultra running or anything. It's very short running. Dustin Horder. Just a shout out to him. He's a local kid who's just about to graduate from high school. Dakota East, I think it's the high school. Very close to me. And cross country kid, also track. He just ran if I have it right, the fastest 3,200 for a high schooler in America. The fastest. He did it in 8:48.71. 8 minutes, 48 seconds, 0.71. So he just ran it. So congratulations to Dustin Horder. I watched him. I'm a cross-country coach, not of his school, but we ran against him a number of times. Absolutely amazing. He was the state champion in cross country, and he's going to Indiana University in the fall. So congratulations to him. It's going to be really fun to watch him run. Maybe we'll see him out in the marathon scene in 10 years, and maybe the ultra running scene sometime as well. But he is remember that name, Dustin Horder. Okay, really, really good runner. The last thing is another friend of mine, Pat Farrell, did something pretty fantastic. He ran, and he lives about 10 miles or 15 miles from me, and he ran 100 miles in his neighborhood to raise money for an orphanage in Nepal. He did this a couple of years ago. A great guy, and it wasn't just streets. Actually, I thought it was. I screwed up. I thought he was just running around the streets. No, he actually lives right next to a trail, so he would run for an hour at a time. So he'd run, and a lot of it was on this trail, and it was kind of muddy and sloppy and technical and everything. So every hour he'd check in back at home. So he'd run for, and he kind of did a different loop each time. He just did whatever he felt like doing. The whole point was to get his watch up to 100 miles. So he did this to raise money, and I actually showed up the first morning he did it. This is a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago or something. And he asked for people to come kind of pace him all day and all night. And the next day to do this, and I kind of went, I think I showed up in his third hour. So he'd already run 2 hours, and then I showed up, and I got while we were running, I talked to him for a few seconds. So let's hear what Pat has to say. Hello. Uh-oh, we have to start over. Okay, are we almost there?
Yeah.
Okay, Pat, give me the 30-second version on why you're doing this run.
Well, I was inspired to do this run because we've adopted 4 kids from China, and I decided that I wanted to do more for orphans around the world and kind of combine my passion for running. So I first did this back in 2016, raised over $3,400.
Nice.
And the great thing is all the money goes directly to the orphanage. There's no administrative cost. Love does not take anything off the top.
Love Does is the organization.
Yeah, it's a nonprofit.
So basically, you'll write a check to them, and they'll write the same check to
Yes.
the orphanage.
And
Something
money
like
goes
that.
very far there because I think the exchange rate is like for every $1 US, it's like 102 Nepalese rupees.
Nice.
So it will go a long way in helping to house, educate, feed, and provide medical care for the 6 girls.
Excellent.
So my little part to humanity.
Very good. Okay, so you've just finished 4 loops, or 4. They're not exactly the same loop, but
Yeah.
4 hours
Roughly
worth of
4
running.
loops, 4 hours. So
And we got about 18 miles maybe or so. We're back at Pat's house at the aid station in his car. And I'm here with Lori, who's training for Western States. She's going to kick some ass there. Right?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. All right, good job, Pat.
thank you. Thanks for pacing.
No problem. All right, there you go. So I think I ran with Pat from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. He started at 7, and I ran from 9 to 11. And Lori came at 10, so she met us, and she ran that second lap. So that's Lori Forenger. She got into Western States on 1 ticket. She will probably finish Western States. She absolutely has the ability to do so. Very, very, very accomplished runner. I think she's done Georgia Death Race herself and some other races that are pretty gnarly. So I give her a very good shot at finishing Western States. But anyway, Pat did continue. I ran probably about 9 miles with him. He was doing about 4 to 5 miles per hour. And a bunch of other friends showed up and kept pacing him. He had some friends run with him for most of the evening. And he did finish right around 30 hours. He ran his full 100 miles. And he was surprised at the very end by a news crew that came and interviewed him and all this. So absolutely fantastic. And I think that's something, I don't know if I would just have it in me to run 100 miles on my own like that. I'm sure, obviously it helped that people kept showing up to run with him. And obviously it helped that he had this motivation to raise money. And he was shooting for $5,000 and he got like $5,900. How's that? Absolutely fantastic. His personal page for raising money is gone, but you can still donate if you like. to the organization, which is called Love Does, and I'll put a link to it, but it's the link is like lovedoes.org/Nepal. So lovedoes.org/Nepal. Love Does is one word, LOVESDOES. Lovedoes.org/Nepal. Thank you, Pat, for doing that. Absolutely fantastic. And it was really fun running with him and Lori. And anyway, great job. All right, so that is finally it for today. Let's see how long we've went. According to my thing, we've went oh my gosh, 2 hours. I think this is a new record. Hey, everyone, put this on. I was going to say, put it on double speed and split it up, but you're already at the end. All right, so remember again, I will put a video of this on YouTube. It always takes me a week or two after to do it. More about me at runsmith.net. All my social information and coaching and stuff. Please email me, kemsmith1@gmail.com. That's also on runsmith.net. Please email me. Anything you like. Thanks again to Health IQ, healthiq.com/endurance. Let's finish this thing. This is Runsmith Enterprises presenting topics in endurance sports. Signing out. Have a fun workout.